Hello, Elliot. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm very happy to be here. I was looking forward to it.
Yes, very exciting. I am going to read the bio that you sent me, and I really enjoyed it. I could actually hear you saying it while I was reading it. It is definitely not an official resume, but that is just you in a nutshell. So let me go ahead and read this. You said that you were writing this while you were on the treadmill, and I thought that was hilarious. So you were born in sunny South Dallas to a single mom. You were the youngest of three, and then 10 years later, your mom gave birth to twins, hurling you into middle childhood. Although always artfully inclined, you went and graduated from high school for health professions. You've had a host of various jobs. Your first job was at Kip's Big Boy, but it didn't pay much. And you had to catch 2 buses to get there. Oh my gosh. And we know in Dallas, that bus system is just not set up for success, is it?
It is not. And I had to get up early in the morning because I had to be at work at 7.
You ended up quitting because the new manager was a racist butt.
He was a big old butt.
Who tried to demean you and called you boy in front of guests. And he didn't say that in a respectful or fatherly manner. From there, you went to work for the Dallas Public Library to Mountain View College. Mountain View is where you grew into your leadership skills. It is also where you finished your associate's degree, received a partial scholarship to SMU, where you received your bachelor in fine arts. After graduating from SMU, you applied to the Dallas Police Department. Most people don't know this, but it was your second time applying to DPD. While you're not the first person in your family to go to college, you are the first to graduate. And your hope is that you are setting a trend of greatness. You were with DPD for 25 years, and 24 of them were the most fun you ever had. DPD forced you to bring out your inner extrovert. And I loved your bio. I loved your intro. Is there anything that you would like to add to that before we start chatting?
I'll just say, so I talk about how it's, when I left SMU, it's my second time applying for the Dallas Police Department. So how personal can I get?
You can get as personal as you want, and we could always edit something out if you regret it later.
No, I won't regret it. So for the longest, so let me clarify, when my mom had the twins, she was married to my stepfather. But for the longest, when I grew up in South Dallas, it was me, my 2 sisters, my mom, and my grandmother. We lived in South Dallas, a house in South Dallas by the Fair Park on Metropolitan. And for the longest, to this day, I don't know who my biological father was or is. And it was a shame for me. I was ashamed because I thought it was my fault. I didn't know who my dad was for the longest time. And interesting story is when you actually grow up and graduate and try to go places, people always ask you about your biological father. And because of my shame of not knowing who my biological father, it stopped me from following some paths that I would have followed maybe. And one of those paths, when I first joined the Dallas Police or applied for the Dallas Police Department in my 20s, I was like 20, 21. They asked me about my father. I didn't know who my father was. And at the time, it's a long story. I try to keep it short. But I had went through all of the process and yada, yada, yada. The sergeant that was in recruiting yelled at me. And I had not the best relationship with my stepfather. So when he yelled at me, it triggered me. And at the time, trigger wasn't a word, but it's a word that I'm familiar with, and it triggered me. And I was like, can I work in a predominantly male environment that every time a male yells at me, it's going to trigger me to what I felt like with my stepfather, because he was very verbally abusive towards me. And so when I left, I never went back. They called me like 5 times, wanted me to come back, but I knew it wasn't in my heart. I wasn't ready to be a police officer because I was going to be going into a male-dominated society where I would possibly get yelled at, and it wasn't going to be good for me. So I had some growing up to do, and I'm very happy that I took the journey, because if I had joined the police department when I was initially going to join, I would have went down probably a different path, and I might not have, went back to school, got my associate's degree, got my bachelor's degree, and took the path that I did. So, God makes a way. I look back on those positive things that came from those negative outcomes. But that was a lot to tell you. So just thought it was interesting, because a lot of people don't know that I had applied before and chose not to join because of the fact that some sergeant yelled at me.
Yeah, and I didn't know any of that. And it is disappointing to know that happens. It's shocking. It also hurts my mama heart to know that there was a young boy, a young fella. Yeah, as a mother of 2 sons, it hurts me to think of a little boy, a young boy, a teenager, a young man carrying a emotion with him that is just not productive or healthy or any of that. And obviously the world is not kind, but I hate to think that somebody that I respect so much, meaning you, struggled that way. But man, did you not hit the nail on the head when you said how different life could have been if you had not reacted how you did, if you didn't step back and make some actually really good decisions. There are people who could say that you ran from the opportunity. Well, who cares what they say? There's others that would say, wow, I wish I was that smart whenever I had something happen to me. Because, like you and I talked about before, we don't always have to fight. There's not everything's supposed to be a battle. Sometimes it's a direction. It's a sign. You and I believe that, our faith that God sometimes, leads us or holds us still. This brings up how I actually do know you. So we were both Dallas police officers. We were both lieutenants. While I never worked in the same organization, well, I shouldn't, that's going to confuse people. Never worked at the same assignment with you, but we often had to attend meetings and planning events. And I remember looking over at you many times, making eye contact, and both of us just looking at each other like, why are we even here? Why are we here? And I'm sure everybody else in the room was thinking the same thing. But so that's how I know you. But I've always liked how you've handled yourself, and I've always liked how you've talked to people. And we're friends on Facebook. Thank God for Facebook. I do know that you are very well loved and respected by your sworn and civilian coworkers of all ranks, of all positions. And I know that your family is very, very important to you. And I know that you are an amazing artist.
Thank you.
You're awesome, awesome artist. And you are so critical of yourself and your artwork.
I am. So funny. It's so true.
And the rest of us look at it and we're like, my gosh, that's amazing. So, and thank you for always sharing that with us. So you retired May 9th of 23, which is just like 3 months ago. So you are actually, you don't know this maybe, but you're actually still in shock. You're still in retirement shock.
I do know it. I am 100% in shock. I mean, what have I done?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. It was, so I retired a little over 3 years ago, 3 years and like 2 months ago or whatever. And I was ready. I loved retiring. I absolutely loved it. But we had the riots right after I retired. So my kind of shock was not really a pleasant shock so much. Mine was an absolutely holy shit. What have I done? What have I done? I don't know what's going on. I can't help anybody. I don't have any control. I don't have any authority. I know what they're showing me on TV is not true. And that was very rough. That was very rough. But I look back and I think that, that might have been God's own way also to really make that cut for me, to really just rip the limb right off the body, not that slow bleeding process or whatever, but just bam, and it was gone. So that was a big thing for me. But do you mind sharing what led up to you retiring? And you retired at 25 years at the rank of lieutenant. And I want to add again, a very respected member of the Dallas Police Department. So what led up to you deciding to retire? Because you're still young.
I am. So it's very interesting. So when they promoted me to lieutenant in 2015, actually the day before my birthday, on August the 12th, I was promoted. It was a present that the Dallas Police Department gave to me. And the only reason I remember it is because it's the day before, it was the day before my birthday, because I'm horrible with dates. The only reason I remember when I joined the police department is because it was April the 1st. And I tell people it was the worst April Fool's joke that the department could ever play on the city of Dallas.
That's funny.
But I don't remember any of the other days that I promoted and all that other stuff, because they didn't happen on like significant days for me, even though they were significant events. But the whole, actually all my time for the most part was in patrol. So I was at Central for 7 years, a little 7.5 maybe. They moved me when they did the promotions last year. And I was already talking about retirement. My initial goal was to retire after I turned 55, which is August 13th. So I was I wanted to still be police officer because my nephew Emmanuel was graduating this year, which he has. And I wanted to retire after he graduated and after I turned 55. In my head, I was going to give myself a 55th birthday party and a retirement party. Sadly, without talking badly about the department, when they moved me, the way that they did it made me feel so disrespected and so marginalized that it really hurt my spirit, And so the last year I talk about 24 years, even, everybody goes through their ups and downs on the police department, but I was always happy. I can only remember one time when I wasn't happy. Now, when you first get your first IED complaint and you hadn't done anything wrong, but they come after you anyway, and I'm not talking about people that don't think they did anything wrong and know that they did. When you actually know you haven't done anything wrong, and then you can prove that you didn't do anything wrong, but then they find something else that wasn't an allegation and you don't understand it, that's when they break your IED virginity. No offense to anybody. But for me, the last year, because of how they were treating me, and it was interesting, Kim, because I hadn't done anything wrong. I had never disrespected anybody. I loved my troops. If anything, and this is the thing, if somebody said something that didn't make sense to me, and keep in mind, in a safe environment like Comstat or something like that, I would ask why or want to know the reason why, because I'm in patrol doing the job and y'all are up in y'all's ivory tower not doing the job. And if it's unsafe for the troops, I want to know why we're doing it, And I've told people this ever since I was in patrol. I mean, I'm talking about officer in patrol. At the end of the day, you have all the power. If you tell me to do it, I'm gonna have to do it as long as it's not illegal, immoral, or unjust. But I should have the right to ask that question without you being mad at me. You know, I shouldn't be punished for asking a question. At the end of the day, if you say do it, I have to do it, right? Um, so that last year, uh, they moved me to headquarters. They literally made up a position for me where it was just weird. It sent me spiraling mentally because I was losing my sense of self as an officer, not as a person. I was always Elliot. And it was hard for people to understand, but I was losing my sense of self as a officer, you know, not and as a lieutenant, because I didn't have anybody that worked up under me. They told me I was going to be doing all this stuff, but as I was doing it, you know, I wasn't getting any feedback. It'd be months and months. I'd send an email, hey, I've done this. What do you want me to do next? And I wouldn't hear anything back for 3 months. That's how I knew it was a made up position. I was like, and I didn't have a major over me. I didn't have anybody up under me. I responded directly to a deputy chief. I won't mention any names. And I was like, well, this is just crazy. You know, I'm just here. They put me in a cubicle in a place that didn't exist. Nobody knew where I was. I didn't even have a phone, Kim. I did not have I had a city phone, but cell phone, but nobody knew the number. And and I'm not bashing the
Elliot,
department. I'm just
there's
telling
some
you,
there are
go
some
ahead.
people listening right now, like you and I, that's a heartbreaking position, right? That's just like awful. But there are going to be people that are listening to this. They're like, man, I wish somebody would send me to a cubicle with no phone
No,
and no.
100%. I was getting that all the time. I was like, they were like, well, that's the perfect job. But I like being active. If I don't want to do any work, I'll stay at home. You know, I want to be active. I hated coming into work, and the work that they gave me, and I kid you not, I could get it done within the first 30 minutes of my 8-hour shift. So I would have to save stuff just so I could keep myself occupied. So I know there are people that love to do that, but I want to keep busy. I didn't become a police officer to sit in the corner. It's not a power thing or anything like that. I want to keep busy. I don't want to come into work and, you know, look at I mean, I was literally streaming Netflix or Hulu for 8 hours until it was time for me to go run at the treadmill or go eat lunch. And then I come back and I would kill the rest of the time until it was time to go. It was miserable for me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I decided that instead of waiting until August, which when I was going to initially retire, I had the time. I had, you know, I had met the time on and the age requirement to go ahead. So I was like, once I make my 25 years, I'm going to leave, because otherwise, when we talked a little bit about this earlier, and I think I am mentally and spiritually stable, but it really was messing with me psychologically.
Yeah.
And it made me understand why officers drunk and why officers, you know, sometimes sadly commit suicide and things like that if you don't have a strong enough base. Because I was like, you know, if I was a drinker, I probably would come home and drink all the time. Luckily, I wasn't a drinker. I was like, it was in that moment, that time frame where I kind of understood how come and why officers would spiral out of control. And I was trying to get people to understand that. I was like, it's not, they were like, well, DPD pay you a lot of money to do nothing. And I was like, yes, they pay me a lot of money not to do anything. But that money is not worth my psychological mindset. It just isn't. And it's not a bash on DPD, because that's not what I'm here for. It's a testament on me, you know, regaining control of my life and being able thank God to be in a place where I could retire. You know, it would have been nice if I would have stayed and got the 90% if I stayed for another 5 years, but I don't know if I could have survived it mentally. So luckily, I was in a position that a lot of people weren't in. I had already paid for my house. My truck is paid for. My house has been paid for since I was a sergeant. So, you know, I was in a good, stable position. And I had another house in Mesquite. My sister is living in it now. If she sees this, I want my rent. Love you, sis. Because that rent is part of my retirement plan.
We'll make sure
But,
she sees this.
yeah. I love you though. I do. I'm not gonna call your name out. You know who you are. I really enjoy. I will say this as I joke about wanting my rent. I feel blessed to not only be able to have retired, but I also feel blessed that in a time where my sister, my baby sister, needed it, one of the ones that threw me into middle childhood, I was able to give her a place to live while she settled in. So those are blessings those are blessings I got because of the job that I had at the Dallas Police Department. So I would never bash DPD. Keep 100%. Let me say that I love DPD. I miss DPD. I love the work that I did. I hate that it was tarnished by the last year of it. You know, I hated that I left on such a sour note. You know, but I love DPD. I'm like you. You know, it's always going to be family with me. I'll criticize it when I have to, but I can criticize it and other people on the department can criticize it, but no outside person can because you're not family.
You know, Elliot, you hit on so many very, very important facts. So as like you and I were talking earlier, as a retirement life coach for first responders, the things that I like to make sure that my clients or just anybody that I'm talking to actually understands is that our mental and our emotional and our physical health matter. And we have to make good decisions to protect that. And it's awful when we're in positions that we don't feel that we have options. You know, like if you're 9 years on a department somewhere and this happens to you and you know you've got 3 small children at home or you're taking care of your mama or you still have a house payment, you know, we think we don't have options, which that's not true. There are always options, but we feel like we don't have options, you know, and you start losing that mental security that we so badly need in this job. And it is a beautiful thing to hear you say that you recognize that you recognize that this is not how you need to live. And there wasn't even an end in sight. It wasn't like sometimes we get sent to assignments for a year or we know it's, you know, it's a temporary, you know, you didn't know where it was going to end, when it was going to end. So it's very good to hear you say that. And I hope that our listeners, people that are watching this, can maybe think of a place where they are in their life and think, do I have to stay here or can I go? If I have to stay here, what do I need to do to make it work for me? Because it's all about what we tell ourselves, right? It's all about what we tell ourselves. I would imagine that if you were not financially secure, if you were not in a place that you could leave, that you might have had a different conversation with yourself and tried to make it as good as, not even a sentence, make it as good for you as possible until you could get out of that. I think listening to you, I think that you also recognize that, you know, going into retirement, you are not going to be able to just sit around on the couch. You're not going to be able to just, you know, lay around, lounge around and eat bonbons, you know, while life passes you by, because you've experienced that and you can't live like that. So how is that an accurate statement?
Oh yes, I'm going stir crazy. I wallpapered my guest bathroom. I just finished yesterday. I've been folding clothes all day today. I'm one of those people that washes clothes and then never fold them. They just lay in a bunch and I sort through them to see what I want to wear. I run every morning, trying to get back fit. But I'm in my head. I'm trying, and I read a lot. I love to read. I'm back and forth on whether. So this is where I'm at real quick to you, Kim, and anybody else listening. I'm in that middle ground on, do I want to go back to work? And people need to know that I'm not in any money or work I would do would be, just to keep me busy. It wouldn't have anything to do with needing to be a lieutenant or in a power position or anything like that, because it wouldn't be for the money. And then I'm at this other catalyst where my mom is elderly. A lot of people don't know this, but also when I was going through this transition of getting ready to retire, my brother, my youngest brother, that's the other twin who stays with my mom. He's really him and my oldest sister are kind of like her primary caregivers, but he actually lives there with her. And he had a stroke back in February. Yeah. And he hasn't fully recovered from it. So I'm in this mindset of, am I going to try to find another job, or am I going to move my mom in with me so I can give her, a healthy environment where I can make sure that she is taken care of like she needs to be taken care of. So I'm in that transitional part, and I'll make that decision. I'm not going to make that decision for anybody listening, including family. I'm not going to make that decision until August, because I have 2 vacation plans that I deserve since I've retired. The first one is going to be in New York next weekend. And then for my birthday, I'm going on a cruise. So when I come back from that cruise, that's when I will make a definitive decision on what I'm going to do. And one thing about retirement that everybody needs to know is that you shouldn't have to be forced to make a decision right after you retire. Enjoy your retirement, because you know as well as I do, there are plenty of people, not just first responders, but we're talking to first responders. Some of them, for whatever reason, they hang on, whether it's because of family, or sometimes it's because of greed, let's say that, and they don't ever get a chance to experience that retirement. We know the officer that just recently had that massive heart attack, broke my heart, and he was just leaving work, because tomorrow isn't promised. So we have to be willing to, at some point, make that decision. You talked about when they first messed with the drop, that's when everybody started jumping ship with DPD. I remember when it happened, I wasn't able to get in the drop. I hadn't been on long enough to get in the drop. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about it, even though, it was like when the stock market crashed for DPD, but the reality is it made some people that had been on and felt like DPD was their only line of defense, for lack of a better word, see that they had options, and they started taking other routes. It wasn't, DPD wasn't the begin all and end all. And I loved that. I thought it was wonderful. I was like, because I've never made DPD my whole life. I enjoyed being DPD. I really did. It was wonderful. I was proud to be DPD, still am, but it was never my whole life. When I got around people, I had other things to talk about than, who I arrested and what we did. And when I was in the office with people, we would talk about life events, because life is still happening around us. Yeah. And sometimes you have to get out of that DPD bubble, so you can know that there is life beyond DPD. And I talked a lot, Kim. I'll give it back to you.
No. There's just so many things. They're just throwing so much fabulous information out there. And I know there's people that are going, oh my goodness. So like when it comes to retirement, there are so many of us that our career, our law enforcement career, our first responder career does not end the way we thought it was going to end. There are people who, like you or like me, that we get a shitty assignment at the end, right? And we're like, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's just not in me anymore, or like me, when I look at a captain who's giving me an order and I'm like, I'm not doing that. That is a sign that you have to leave, because like you said earlier, at the end of the day, we do have to follow, legal orders. And I knew when I'm looking at this captain and I'm like, I'm not doing it, that, it was time for me to make a better decision, either do it or leave. And, I was really excited about retirement, but, it didn't go like I thought it would go. I didn't have a retirement party because we had the lockdown and then we had the riots and stuff. So there was all of that. And then I know people who have retired because they were injured, or they're retired because they have a family member, that's in strife or illness and they have to leave for them, or, just whatever. They leave for all kinds of reasons that are not what they thought they were going to leave for. And then things don't go the way they thought it was going to go after they retired. We had some people that had spent years building businesses. They retire, and then we have the lockdown, and all that years of work fell apart right when they thought their companies were going to get off of the ground. Anything in the travel industry and the fishing industry and, the hospitality industry and stuff like that. It was heartbreaking to see that. But ultimately, retirement is life, and life does not go always how we think it's going to go. And so we have to know who we are and know what matters to us, and, basically just keep going. And that people are like, well, that's oversimplified. Well, don't make it harder. If you got bills to pay, you need to get out there and work, right? And if you're sitting at home and going stir crazy, now there's something that's actually good about that. There is something good about getting sleep. There is something good about actually folding clothes. Like, I fold clothes all the time now. We didn't used to fold clothes. We would go to the dryer and get out what we needed. I didn't have time to fold clothes. I was working 40, 60 hours a week, plus driving back and forth, plus having children, plus being part of the community and having an oil business. Folding clothes was not even on our list. Our clothes are folded all the time. As a matter of fact, I do multiple loads of laundry throughout the week, just so there's not a basket of dirty clothes sitting over there. I drive my husband crazy. I'm like, hey, give me that dirty uniform. He's like, what? I'm like, give me a uniform. I want to do some laundry, but our clothes are folded. I get all of our errands and stuff done during the day, so that when Todd comes home, because he's still working, he's at 33 years, he's still working. He comes home, we have a meal, we're able to watch TV, walk the dogs if it's not 110 degrees outside. I mean, we have schedules now, we have a life. And that is because I retired from somebody else's schedule. So my businesses that I run, I do that on my schedule and all. So you are at a beautiful place. And these people that retire, even if things don't go the way they thought it was going to go, there's still so much we can get from that. And I know a lot of people don't want to admit it or don't want to say it out loud, but we have some healing to do. We have some healing to do. And we have to, in a way, not always make decisions based on survival anymore. And we can allow more non-fatal information into our process of making decisions. It isn't now just what's going to kill us or kill somebody else, or what's going to get us in trouble or somebody else in trouble. We have so many other things that we can take in to make decisions. And it's kind of nice in a way,
I'm glad you said that, Kim. And I actually love what you're doing because, like you said, retirement is a freedom. I get my name back. I get the name back that my mom gave me. Because you go from being a PO to a senior corporal to Sarge to LT. And I like the fact that during the course of my tenure as a sergeant and a lieutenant, that I forged the kind of relationships where people saw beyond the rank. Those are the people that you really bond with, and you go out and have, after you retire and even after they leave, you still hang out with them and get to know them. But besides that, that freedom, and this because of what you're doing, retirement is a little scary. It's scary to know that you have retired, especially when you have retired at 54. But I'm willing to believe that even, and it's probably why some people haven't retired. Like we know some people that have been on the department, and they've been on for what, 40, 50 years. And they and they not getting, because you can't get any more than 90%. And I think because there's a fear in retirement as well. you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. Without a doubt, without a doubt. And, and I think that people who do not recognize that there's a fear, are people who make fun of the fear, are people who are critical of the fear. They do a great disservice to the profession and to other people, because we have got to respect people where they are. What we can do, though, is offer hope. And what we can do, though, is live our lives. And this is a lot of pressure on some people, but not everybody. We can live our lives in a way that somebody can look and say, hey, she's smiling a lot, or hey, he seems to have a lot of energy, or oh, I see this person showing up a lot, or and all, I know that Facebook is not necessarily always 100% real or accurate, and we really aren't supposed to like necessarily, show our dirty clothes on it or whatever, but you can look at the posts that you put on there, like today is a day to make it great, it's up to you. What a great example, because that's not telling somebody that they don't have troubles. It's not telling somebody that life is not horrible when it could be, but it's saying, make it great. Make your day great. And I think as retirees, we can live by example, but with honesty also, and admit that we're scared, and admit that the first time that nobody calls you to ask you about something, when you have the answer and they're not calling you, what could be done, and nobody cares. It's difficult, but it is nice. Like when I go to women's Bible study now, it's nice just to be me. But I have to admit that still just about every time somebody will ask a safety question or a police related question, and I have zero problem with that, and I'm that glad I'm there to help them. So it is me. I did it for 30 years, and it's always going to be there. But retirement, that sense of freedom that you were talking about, there's a lot of freedom to be somebody else, acknowledging the fear, acknowledging the what have I done, acknowledging the who am I, acknowledging that maybe our relationships aren't as good as they should be. Maybe some relationships need to be put aside, and we need to open ourselves up to others. That we don't know how we want to spend our time. Like we thought we liked doing yard work, and it turns out we don't want to do yard work. All those things. Retirement is so much. It's just so, why, Elliot? Because it's life and it's living. And so many of us retire in our early and mid 50s. In all honesty, we could have more time left living than we had as first responders.
I agree. Can I tell you that, and I know we're not mentioning names, and I was really flattered because he actually invited me to this before he even knew I was going to retire. There's an officer from when I worked at Southwest. He started a little group of retirees of people that worked at Southwest, and they meet every 3 months. And they just get together at 11 o'clock at this Mexican food restaurant in Arlington. And, and it's just nice to see the spectrum of ages of people that have retired and stuff like that, and people just living and being free. They talk about their good times, they talk about their bad times, what they're doing. And I love that he did that. And I love that he invited me to it because, at the time, I'm gonna be honest, if he's listening to it, I didn't think he liked me as a sergeant, and you just don't know that you touch people until they reach out and show you that, it's not that I didn't like you, I just didn't like the rank you were. But they liked you because you wore the rank the right way. Does that make sense? And I hope that's not self-serving, because I don't mean it to be self-serving.
No,
but you don't really know that level of connection you have made with people sometimes, because officers are so standoffish sometimes, and we don't show how much we appreciate this person.
No, exactly. And again, the wisdom. So I've talked with several other retirees about this, and like I wasn't like the best shooter. You know, I wasn't the big this or the big that or whatever like that, but I oftentimes officers who I don't even know their names necessarily will see me in the grocery store. They'll see me here. I do presentations for the department. They'll come up to me and they'll say, I don't know if you remember this, but I was in trouble, you know, back as a rookie and you helped me. Or I don't know if you remember this, but you know, you helped my wife. Or I don't know if you remember this, but you did the Dave Ramsey class and my wife and I are now debt free. Or, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but I was going to quit the department, you know, and you helped me and all that stuff. And you know what? I do remember the individuals, but that is not what the department hired me to do necessarily, you know, and they don't give any awards for that. There's no bars on our chest for, you know, helping somebody who's going through a divorce or, you know, helping somebody find an apartment when they got thrown out of the, you know, all this stuff that we do. But, and when it's time to retire and you get your plaque, which you have to make on your own if you do it during COVID, because nobody, anyway, so, you know, you don't have all those fancy things on there, right? And all, but man, it's nice to have somebody to come up and say, you changed my life, or you stopped me from making a decision. Or when I was in trouble, you treated me fairly. Or when you told me to, like, I had this one guy come up that said, I looked at him and I said, sit your dumb ass down and listen to me. And I wanted to just cringe when he told me that. I was like, oh my God, you know, and he said, and that is exactly what I needed. That is exactly what I needed, you know, and he's a great officer. He's an excellent officer, you know, problem was solved. It was done, you know.
Sometimes they don't see it in that moment. They like later on, they be like, you did. And I like that you said there are no bars on our chest, but oh, the bars in our heart. As hard as cheesy as that is, you know, just to know that you saved somebody's job, you know, because they didn't see the forest for the trees, you know, that you taught somebody that was having a hard time. Because one thing that I never did, and I'm sure you're the same way, is I tell people, don't ever forget what it was like to be a rookie.
Oh,
This, when you forget what it was like to be a rookie is when you lose touch with those rookies, because you expect everybody to be at the level that you were at. But you weren't always at that level.
And sometimes you're not at the level you think you are.
Oh, no, you are not.
Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, I definitely. So let me see, if I were to sum up what you have said, is that you had some things happen to you in life that could have sent you one direction, but instead you made some good decisions and you were then able to really become the man that you are and serve the department and our community. And you had a career that you loved. The last year did not go the way you ever would have thought that it would have gone, but you were able to get your mind right about that and move on and make it the best for you and also probably the department. I mean, if, you know, I always thought if I'm of no value here, I don't need to be here.
Right. And it's important that we know our own value. And I'm going to say this because a lot of people don't know this. And I mean to, because I think sometimes, and this is not just DPD, just worldwide with first responders, the people in charge play like or say that they care about their officers, and I'm not talking about just fire. I'm talking about police, soldiers. They care. And it's just a catchphrase, wellness. We care about their wellness, but they're not really doing anything to help with their wellness. You know, it's just checking off a box sometimes. So it's important to anybody listening to this that you have to take your own wellness in hand. And one of the things that I did do before I left, you know, and that's the wonderful thing about not having to go in. You can do like a Zoom meeting, but I talked to somebody about it. I talked to a counselor, you know, just because, and I needed them to get it. I was like, I've never lost my sense of self, you know, I just lost who I was as a police officer. I mean, at the end of the day, that whether I liked it or not, that was part of my identity for 25 freaking years, you know?
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to reach out. If you're not reaching out to Kim, reach out to somebody. Don't be ashamed. You can tell the world or you can tell nobody. but I loved because I knew when I took the family medical leave. It just so happens I took it. I was taking it for myself. So it just so happened that my brother had the stroke, so I had to step in. This is how God works. I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. As my brother had his stroke that put him in the hospital, I was getting ready to take family medical leave, and those days hit 100%. I kid you not. The same. My brother had his stroke that Monday. My family medical leave was done take place that Wednesday. And during that 3 months, I was helping take care of my mom. I was 7 days out of the week. 5 of those days were over my mom's house. And I told my family, I need 2 days for myself. I will be here, but I have to have 2 days for myself, for my own wellness. And I was having a counseling session once a week with a very wonderful counselor that, just helped me get my mind back. And I was sleeping, my blood pressure was better, and yada, yada, yada. But when I knew I had to go back, that stress was right back, was right back on me. But it's just important. And I thought I would say it. I didn't want to keep that out. Not everybody's going through that, but if you are, don't be ashamed to talk to someone like him that's a life coach, or you can do both. There's no right way to do it, and I have, like I told I have a very strong relationship with God. I pray and everything like that, but sometimes he sends us angels, and if that angel has to be a therapist, dang it, then use that angel. We cannot be afraid to use the tools that are available. And I think every department, especially with fire, and I talk about DPD, and we know that those services are for us and we can use them free, but we don't take advantage. And that's like having a gun and being afraid to use it when you have to. You have to use those tools. Yeah. And now I'm done. I promise.
No. Well, first of all, you're not done. I know some more wisdom is going to come out, but I'm glad that you said that. Thank you so much for saying that, because it's very, very important, because I think that people need to understand some of the thought processes that we go through. And we do need help sometimes with that. Sometimes we just need to even say it out loud and somebody help you keep going one direction, or point out where it is that you had that block so you can figure out what's going on there. And as a sidebar comment here, our department is doing tons of stuff for officers. I love how they're doing that. And it's been a long time coming. It's very, very needed. But I will never forget years ago when I was at Southwest. I love Southwest, but I was at Southwest, and love Southwest. And I was was I days? I was either days or third watch lieutenant then. And I'm in my office. I closed my office door. Somebody knocked and walked in, and it was Chief Brown. Chief Brown walks in my office and closes the door. And I'm like, there is nothing that can be good about this, right? When a chief just walks into your office, and very polite, very respectful when he walked. He didn't just barge in, but still, this doesn't happen, right? And he sat down and he goes, "We need to talk." And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he had some concerns about one of my troops, about a senior corporal. He had some concerns about him, and he was, go ahead. You need to get your dog? Go ahead.
No, talk. I can take you with me. He wants to go outside.
Okay. He was very, very concerned about this very valuable officer, and he wanted to make sure that we were doing everything possible to take care of him and to meet his needs. And he told me, he said, "I want you to please have a conversation with him about taking a vacation." He was completely maxed out on all of his time. He was doing so much overtime, legitimate overtime, not a weasel, legitimate overtime, right? And Chief Brown said, "Please ask him, please see if he would consider taking a vacation, And I was like, "Of course, absolutely." And Chief Brown thanked me and he left. And I remembered at that point, no matter what this man ever does in the future, what he's ever done in the past, and I happen to like him and respect him very, very much, but that would be like the shining star of a career. The fact that he would come and have this conversation because he absolutely cared about this officer. He did not want to go through all the formal lines and get it all screwed up and all messed up and get everybody's backs up against the wall and make memos have to be generated and stuff like that. He wanted to solve a problem. I went to the officer. I said, I would like to speak with you, please. He was scared to death. I said, I promise you, there's no trouble, there's nothing wrong. And I told him the truth. I said, Chief Brown came down and talked to me. He is worried about you. We're worried. How long can somebody work like this? He's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I said, you're not doing anything wrong. You're not doing anything wrong at all. But how long can somebody work like this? How much pressure can you be under? How can you continue going to court like this all the time? How can you be out in the middle of the night working like this, all this, on and on and on? And he just looked at me, what am I going to do? I said, can you take a vacation? He's like, I don't have a life. And I said, that's everything else is a symptom of that, right? And I said, please consider it. We can't make you do this, but please consider doing this. And he did. Like the next week he came in, he took multiple weeks off. He went and visited some family that was far away. He would send me text messages about what he's seen while he's driving and stuff. And he came back and, was it life-changing? Yeah, it was a little bit life-changing for him. He knew to take vacations. He knew to be more careful with himself. He did start getting some hobbies. He did start doing some things outside of police work. But to me, the real lesson in that is to seeing a person, an individual in power, care about somebody.
Yeah, I've had those moments. Sadly, it's so far and in between where you have those people that have, we'll say, all of the power, and when you have those people, I can think of like 4 that I've come across, and it's like, I don't care what they do from this point on, that will be their defining moment for me, and I will always love them. I don't care if they go and rob a bank tomorrow. My defining moment is that this person cared. I don't care where he or she went wrong, but I love that they cared, because a lot of officers don't feel like they're cared for, and it's so important. And I love that, because sometimes it's like I do yoga now. Yoga sucks, but I still do it, because the place that I go, they give they don't just give you the poses, but they give life affirming talks while you're doing the yoga. And sometimes I know that I'm guilty of it. Sometimes I forget to breathe when I'm working out, when I'm running, when I'm doing yoga, and they have to remind you to breathe. And as leaders, I don't care whether, we have to remind these officers to take time to breathe. And that means not trying to get all of the money. The money is there. It's going to always be there. Stop trying to get all of the money and breathe, So I think that what he said, that I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it was a defining moment. It was a defining moment. So you were in this position and it wasn't serving you, and you weren't really able to serve. You recognize that you don't want to live that way ever again, even in retirement. And you are in retirement shock right now, but what a blessing to be able to take care of family, to be able to make these decisions, to have the time, to have the freedom, like you mentioned, and to be able to remind yourself to breathe and make the decisions and take the actions that are going to serve the people that you care about. Because I don't think there's anybody who knows you, even me who knows you, from a professional distance and then on Facebook, I know you care deeply for people, and you're in a position now that you're going to be able to do that. So the big question, and this is the question Todd always likes me to ask our guests, is how does Elliot want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered, and I'm going to put my rank in it. No, I'm going to take my rank out of it. I want to be remembered as that person on the department, even before I joined the department, everywhere that I went, that actually really cared about the individual. That person that realized that you can actually do your job, love your job, and have fun and laugh and smile. And just because you are smiling and laughing does not mean that you're not working. Because I think a lot of people think that if you're smiling and you're enjoying your work, that you're not working. And it's such a messed up mentality. I don't like to think I know that I brought joy into my people's lives, whether it's having a pancake, a waffle party, or having chicken and waffles and feeding them and talking about life and acknowledging when they were having a significant event, like giving a little gift card if they were graduating from college, or if they had a baby, going to get a little baby shower gift. And even more so, making those connections with people that weren't on my watch, just letting them know, hey, I care, I'm listening to you. I want to be known as that person that really cared about you. It wasn't just lip service. It wasn't just because I was a lieutenant. I really want people to have longevity and be happy. And so that's what I want my legacy to have been on the department. I don't care if I never made it to chief, or even if I had never made it to lieutenant. I'm blessed that I've made it to lieutenant rank, because I think that I was able to have, especially working deep nights, I was able to shield my officers from the negativity of what was going on. I was like, we don't buy into that negativity. We stay positive on this watch. Don't bring in the rumors. If something happens, one of my key things when I knew I was going to do it, I said, no matter what is going on this department, when we leave this detail room, we will leave on a positive note, because I would tell them it is so irresponsible for me to think that you're going to go out there and be positive when all I did was beat you down with everything that's going on. So we would never leave the detail without some kind of positivity. I needed smiles, and you can't make everybody smile, but dang it, I tried my best. So that's what I want my legacy to be, that I made people smile.
I love it. I love it. Well, I think that you have probably done that, and I think you will continue to do that. I cannot thank you enough for your time today and your plethora of wisdom. I don't even know how I'm going to do show notes on the highlights of this, because there's just so much. I think people are going to listen to it, and I think there's just different things that are going to hit different people, and I really look forward to that. I look forward to people hearing your heartfelt and honest gift that you have given us today. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. And I have only one request.
Yes, sir.
Ready for it? Because
Ready.
like you said, I openly admit, I am in the shock of retirement. This time next year, let's see what Forge is like a year after retirement.
Yes, yes, yes. We didn't even have to wait a year, but a year is a good time to wait. But yeah, because there are some timelines in retirement that we know people hit different things and stuff. But yeah, heck yeah, I definitely want to do this again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I was looking forward to it. And like you said, I follow you on Facebook, and I feel like we use Facebook for the right way. Some people take it too seriously. I joke. I like to see people smile, and it's good to keep in contact with people that you don't see on a daily basis. But thank you very much for allowing me to do this. It brought me so much joy, and I really do appreciate it. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.